why is food motivation so important? First and foremost, you have the health side of things. Forget training. Throw training out the window for a minute, right? Dogs that have a healthy food drive or a healthy food motivation goes hand in hand with their dietary needs, right? Dogs or animals in general are not intended to just eat and regulate how full they are and, be inconsistent with all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Dogs are intended to have a constant motivation for food because they're scavengers, right? They eat as much as they can when it's available,
Yep.
right? So that they could survive until the next round of food is available,
meal,
right?
yeah.
That's what they're created for, right? Mm-hmm. So by it freely being accessible at all times, we're going against nature as a whole because they're going to gorge themselves. They're not designed to ration it out and be like, oh, I'm full right now. I'll just wait until the next meal. Oh, I'm full right now. I'll wait until the next meal, right? They overeat 9 out of 10 times, right? Which totally throws off their feeding schedule because they gorge themselves. Then they're so unbelievably full that they're lazy, they're irritable, right? They have horrible bowel movements because of it. They skip their next meal, which is unnatural for dogs, and then they gorge themselves again. And it's just everything gets thrown out of whack from it.
Yeah.
They get overweight, obviously, and you have all sorts of health issues that are involved in that, right? If we could keep our dogs' food motivation up and we could get them consistently eating an appropriate amount of food, leaving them feeling slightly hungry for the next one so they eat a consistent amount of food, I could completely control the dietary needs of the dog, right? And I can make sure I control their weight. I control the health issues that come with it. I can control joint issues later on because by keeping them at an appropriate weight, obviously you run less of a risk of those types of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? It's unhealthy for your dog not to have food motivation. That's not what they're designed for, right?
Yeah.
And again, I've seen personally a direct correlation between dogs that are free-fed and not on an appropriate diet and their behavioral issues, right? I use the example all the time. If you want to humanize things, if you ate until you were so unbelievably fucking stuffed and you just ate a bunch of garbage all the time and stuff like that, you are not going to be a fun person to be around.
No, you're
right?
uncomfortable.
Like I'm not going to be a fun person to be around at that point. I'm going to be, there's studies in humans of obviously obesity and stuff like that, leading to higher depression levels, worse health conditions, things like that. Right. So from a dietary standpoint, food drive is so important for the health and well-being of the dog. Right. Then you get into the next step of things, going to training, right? The learning process, right? One of the biggest arguments of the force-free community is that positive-only training, right, or the use of the use of positive reinforcement in training is a much stronger motivation than negative reinforcement or than your other types of aversives that you may use, right? Which I completely agree with. When I get a board and train in, right, that out of the box has really, really great food drive, right? I can get everything taught with them in, I'm not even exaggerating, typically half the time it takes me with dogs that don't have the food drive, right?
Yeah.
Because the more motivated they are to do these things, the quicker I could teach everything, which means the quicker I can move to proofing stages, which means the quicker I could add in the use of aversives to proof those things that I then taught the dog really well, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It literally, I'm not denying any of that. When the dog has good food drive, I could teach things much faster to them, right? Then you get into the third side of things, which is the enrichment side of things, right? So what is enrichment? Enrichment is providing mental stimulation to dogs, right? Enrichment is providing a healthy outlet for the dog to enjoy what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And though we could say if I train a dog without the use of food, which is very possible, I'm not saying you can't do it, and I'm not saying it's wrong to train a dog without the use of any sort of food, right?
Yeah.
I would say that it's wrong to train a dog without the use of any food if the dog has good food motivation, because that's unnecessary, right? I could do it in a much more gentle manner, and I could do it while keeping the dog's energy level much higher, obviously, right? But there's something to be said about the more the dog enjoys the training, the more the human enjoys the training, the more we do the training altogether, right?
Yeah.
Again, direct correlations between our clients that are very successful with their dogs and go out and do a lot of things with their dogs typically have dogs that have a lot of motivation, right? It's fun. We want our dogs to be happy, right? We want our dogs to enjoy the things that they're doing, right? And if they have food motivation, that's going to be much more fulfilling to them. That's going to be much more fulfilling to us to see it. You know what I mean? Where the dogs that don't like the training process, there's something to be said about once they start doing everything correctly, the confidence then comes from it and they start to learn to just enjoy the process of doing things. I think that's true. I think that obviously providing any type of mental stimulation and providing like fulfillment through training as a whole it builds confidence and it's good for the dog.
Yeah.
But if we're seeing our dog in those early stage not enjoying the process as much or looking scared through the process or things like that, we're not going to be as motivated to keep doing it. Because people that don't have the mentality of a dog trainer that understand how all of it comes around on the back end, they're not going to be able to see if I just stick with this, the dog will come out so much better on the other end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is why I find that food motivation as a whole is so important.